Hawarden Dinner Date collaborates with the Elderbridge Agency on Aging for Meals on Wheels,
They get a well-balanced diet.
delivering delicious and nutritious meals right to the doorsteps of Hawarden elders, ensuring they enjoy wholesome, balanced meals without the hassle of cooking.
A lot of them just really struggle with that financial aspect or the aspect of making food like they used to. They get very excited when you come.
A lack of funding is causing them to go from 5 meals a week down to 4, cutting Fridays from the lineup.
These cuts could mean fewer meals for those who rely on them. Now, there's no financial obligation for those who participate.
Elderbridge was providing $90,000 a year to the Meals on Wheels program. In July, the House Appropriations Committee made a $37 million cut for home-delivered and congregate nutrition programs nationwide. This cut Hawarden's budget down to $65,000 in July, now forced to make the cut in meal service this month.
And so taking away that extra meal has been pretty crucial for some of them because that's just one more day they have to worry about where am I going to get food, or who do I have to depend on, because they don't like that. They don't want to depend on other people.
Working to get 160 meals a week to Hawarden senior residents, this program is stretched thin.
Think of how the elderly worked all their lives and now they get cut.
So what can people do to help?
They can donate to us. We're always looking for new ideas.
For now, 4 meals a week will be it for the 30 to 40 seniors that use this service in Hawarden.
People need to step up to the plate for elderly people.
In Hawarden, Iowa, Taylor Deckard, KTIV News 4.